and the goalkeeper and just a simple activity. But let's look most importantly on the player actions and the principles and behaviors we want to see. So in this area of the field, defensive third, we're going to ask the horizontal gap, so the distance between the 2 and the 4, 4 and the 5, 5 and the 3, so each gap to be anywhere from 5 to 8 yards, no greater than 8 yards. So a reference point for that, the goal is 8 yards. So center backs post to post, kind of within that width to give that reference point. Of course, when they're stepping, and we'll go through that in a second, then we're going to ask the other 3 to shrink in or collapse inside and to then get tighter together during that time frame. So the player actions are fairly simple that we want to see. If the ball was at the central target here, or the central pole, we would ask the player that was closest to step to apply pressure without diving in. So in this case, assuming we ask the 4, if the 4 happened to be closer, 4 is going to step. Player actions, they're going to get into a defensive shape. So we might say break down into your defensive shape when you're probably 2 yards, 1 yard away from the ball. In this area, the main objective is to stop forward penetration, to stop a free shot. As that happens and the 4 is stepping into this space, hopefully they're able to cut off one direction. But in this area of the field, we're not going to ask them to bend their run excessively like you might ask a 9 to do in the attacking third. We're going to ask them to take a straight line to get there as quickly as possible. As that happens, you can see this gap opens up here. So we're going to ask our 2 in this instance to slide in to provide cover. And then again, maybe a little gap here that could be played through. We're going to ask the 5 to slide in to provide cover on the other side. And then lastly, our 3 to tuck in to create that balance over there. So you see the distances are getting a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. So probably about 5 to 8 yards, as we said, 5 yards into here. And really our main objective is not to allow any central penetration in this kind of block we're in. So if the ball goes wide, we're okay with dealing with that, but we don't want any penetration in this area, okay? So as that ball is there, to give you the reference point, and the 4 stepping, as that ball would travel out to the wide area, we're then going to ask our 3 to step out to defend it. Again, not bending their run excessively either way, but more in a straight line closest to the ball. And their angle of approach should be one in which that they don't overrun the play. So they're not so aggressive that if this was an actual player, they could just touch down the line to beat them. So as they release out, 3 things are going to happen. The 5 is going to slide to provide cover. The 4 is going to drop back in to provide cover and balance. And the 2 is going to tuck back in slightly. In this case, and there's a few ways to defend in wide areas. You see the old Italian way that when it's in the wide areas, the near side center back is going to defend the front post and kind of leave that fullback isolated. In this particular instance, because it's a little bit higher up in the defensive third, they're not on the byline. They're still 25 yards from goal. We're going to ask the 5 to provide cover. So if this was a forward and they drove inside, the 5 is then there able to step and provide cover so they don't have a free shot, right? You see nowadays a lot of wingers play on their opposite foot. So a right winger might be left-footed because they're looking to cut inside and find that shot. So we don't want to be so far away that we can't help there. While our other center back is going to be kind of even with that front post. So if it is an early cross whipped in, we're still protecting that front post. And our weak side fullback is here protecting centrally, but also protecting the back post. So in this particular instance, their body position would want to be open, so you're able to see what's behind you, while also still defending the cross. And same thing with our 4 and 5, kind of open body position, so we can still get across to close anything down. And this player is going to be kind of sideways on, hopefully forcing them, in this instance, out wide, but not so drastic that they give them a wide open angle. Again, as the ball shifts, we're going to repeat. We're going to, as the ball comes into here, we're going to ask our closest defender. In this case, the reason we probably would not want to ask the 2 to go is if the 2 is late to get here and this is a game setting. Now this ball can be slipped in behind to a winger oncoming, and creates that goal. So in this case, as that ball is traveling from, say, left winger to center forward, our 4 is starting to step out, get a little bit of pressure on the ball, okay, and creates, body shape here. Our 2 is still providing cover, but sliding a little bit more right. So if this ball is slid out, our 5 is now tucking in to provide cover again, and our 3 is sliding across to provide that balance. Of course, body position now has to be opened up. Now as we have that and we've cut off the shooting lane, we can start to get higher to get a little bit more pressure without diving in. Again, if a player is able to beat us from 25 yards when we're cutting off at least one of the shooting lanes and beat our goalkeeper, probably going to hold our hand up there. But if we dive in and get beat and now allow a 1v1 into our box, we put our keeper in a really bad situation. So most likely if we've defended well in this situation, again, the ball is going to have to be circulated again. So as it's circulated out wide, the process just repeats, right? We're going to ask our near side fullback, the 2, to drive out, again, breaking down when they're 1 or 2 yards away. Body position sideways on, okay, weight on their toes, okay, not diving in, but ready to move, ready to be quick. This 4 is now recovering hard into this space to provide cover for the 2. 5 is sliding across, and again, reference point might be that near post. 3 tucking in, again, 5 to 8 yards between all of them, and we're a compact unit. So any balls kind of whipped into this area, there's no true gaps. We can attack them. If a forward was making a run in here, again, we can track them and deal with that. So an easy way to practice this in an unopposed setting would be, these could be players here. So it could be just 3 players there. Any 3 players would do, right? And the reference point is the players. And as they shift the ball, okay, everyone else shifts, right? So the 5 shifts out, 3 provides cover here, 4 provides cover here, 2 tucks in for balance and cover. As it shifts across to the opposite side, again, 3 sliding out to provide a little bit of pressure, 5 providing cover, 4 balance and cover central, 2 balance on that back side, right? And of course, getting our angles right. Again, 5 to 8 yards, body position correct, not diving in on the first one, but denying any kind of forward passes or penetration. So ideally, we want to force these play negative. So these repetitions can just get that shifting focus and get the communication from the back 4 and the goalkeeper playing a central role here. So shouting shift right, shift left, who's stepping, who's covering, right? The last thing I would say from a player action standpoint is just the body position and how we're actually recovering here. So as this ball is traveling, we want this 3 to recover into this space that's going to be vacated as quickly as we can. So this ball comes from here to here. And again, the 2 is going to shift across, 4 stepping to the ball, 5 getting into here. So we see this gap that potentially in a game might be a 1-2 for the winger to attack. So instead of backpedaling or side shuffling, as that ball travels, we're asking the 3 to have the body position open where they can still see the 4's movement, but their hips are turned towards the 5 so they're able to actually sprint while their body position is still open so they can see that runner's movement and behind. So if this runner is coming, they're preparing their body shape to be able to attack that, but they're able to actually sprint to close that gap quickly. If they're backpedaling or side shuffling, they're not going to be able to close that gap quicker than the winger is going to be able to run, which opens us up for an attack through there. So that's one way to look at just implementing the player actions, the movements, the connections we want to see from an unopposed manner.